Hi, I'm glad you're here. I can tell you my story now. This is why I'm passionate about fasting. It's going to be a long story, but we'll get to the end and it'll be a good story. Story of my life. Okay, so I grew up in Los Angeles in a household that was violent. When I was 5 years old, my dad got shot between the eyes. I was sitting on his lap. I saw everything. I didn't know at 5 years old how to cope with that. And because it was such a shocking incident, my mom didn't know how to deal with that either. She checked out. So I was basically neglected. I didn't get therapy. And when I got older, I started numbing myself with all kinds of street drugs and alcohol, and that caused problems in my household between me and my mom. And I ended up running away from home, or she ended up kicking me out of the house, and then the police gets involved, and I ended up going to jail, and then I'd get released and I'd go back to the drugs and the lifestyle, homelessness. I ended up in jails and institutions many years of my life, my youth. And it just snowballed, that lifestyle just snowballed. I had no guidance, and with my mother being depressed and not knowing how to deal with me. God bless her soul. She was a lovely woman, but she just didn't know how to deal with what had happened and what it did to me. And the best I could do was numb out. So in the void that was created, inside of me, I kept trying to feed it with relationships, and oh please, I just wanted someone to love me. I wanted someone to love me, but no matter how much love they would give me, it was never enough. And so something about the violence in my youth, my family household, that snowballed as well. But little did I know, until way later, years, decades later, did I realize that there was a certain energy that was attached to me that would cause me to stay in that low vibrational, violent, energy, and relationships would become violent, and more trouble with the law. So after jails and institutions and all that, that was wreaking havoc way back then, I ended up going to 12-step programs, and I thought that was going to save me. And it kind of did. I mean, it adulted me. I was able to get parenting. I parented myself through the AA program and Sex and Love Addicts Anonymous, because, with that ginormous void inside of me, with all the relationships that I kept trying to force or to keep, and they would just become awful situations. I needed to do Sex and Love Addicts Anonymous because it was as though I was addicted to love, but I wasn't getting the love, like the self-love. I didn't know how to love myself. I thought that, being kind to myself and buying things for myself and, like just pampering myself, that was going to, I showed kindness to myself, and that's a good thing. It's a great thing, but that still wasn't the key. It wasn't the key. And I kept trying to find like healing and the answers by digging and digging in my psyche, and rehashing the past and sorting through it through the 12 steps. And then I did Alcoholics, besides Alcoholics Anonymous, Sex and Love Addicts Anonymous, I did the Adult Children of Alcoholics program as well. It's another 12-step program. That was deep. I didn't just go through my inventory. I went through my mom's inventory, my dad's inventory, my grandparents' inventory on both sides of the family, and then I saw the cycles of that I was caught up in, and it was like, I guess in some way it was like a pattern that goes through your DNA somehow. It's they're like, they call them like snake curses that goes through the family. And I was like seeing this gigantic snake, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not gonna do that. But I was already doing it. I couldn't stop it. So I just was living these cycles over and over and over and over and over and over. Okay, well, I began to fight for my life there because the relationships that I had ever been in didn't work. But actually, I didn't work. There was something broken in me. And so I never got married. And I hadn't gotten married. And so in 2017, I thought, oh, I'm just going to perfect myself. I'm going to perfect every bit of myself. I'm going to be so good. I got my domestic self, like my talents, to like my optimum performance. Cooking, cleaning, entertaining, all kinds of talents. But it still didn't turn, it didn't get me where I wanted to be. I wanted the fairy tale. Well, when I had perfected all of that outside, domestication stuff, and the loyalty and the honesty and all that, I met somebody that I dated for the first year. I was very cautious, not cautious enough. This person, he actually got married and didn't tell me. And then when I found out 6 months after he had been married, why everything was going wrong and falling apart, and like I was starting to lose so many things in my life, and I found out that he was married, my heart shattered. It shattered. A tsunami of emotions rolled out from me, and I was so like in such a panic and despair and anger and just like confusion. I didn't know what I was going to do. Was I going to break up the house? Am I going to hurt myself? Am I going to hurt somebody? But I didn't know. I just felt like doing something to stop it. So my brain said, you better sedate. So easily I did. I sedated again. And as soon as I did the drugs, my heart calmed down. But unfortunately, it was, of course, the wrong way to go. My brain, that was the best answer. That was like the best solution I can come up with at the time. Sedate. My brain basically abandoned my heart. My heart closed up. I couldn't feel anything anymore. And I said, okay, fine. It is what it is. He's married. I'm not going to die. No one's dying. It's okay. I'll just deal with it. I'll figure it out. I'm just going to clean the house right now. Ridiculousness. Well, next time I saw him, a couple of days later, I started getting a little turbulence again. So I did some more drugs. I'm like, okay, it's fine. I don't feel a thing. And so that pattern started again. And it snowballed. And I didn't resolve anything. In fact, I just went deeper into this adulterous affair. And I started losing more things. I lost so much. My school tuition. I lost properties. I lost my sobriety. I lost my dignity. I lost my health. I lost my family. I lost everything. I lost my jobs, my integrity. So it went deep. It snowballed, and fast forward a couple of years and I'm still in this awful relationship. Devaluing myself, just falling apart. And then I started internally bleeding from doing drugs. I was corroding. A lot of bad things happened. Social things, really bad things happened. So I decided I have to get out of here. If I leave the country, I'll get away from him. I'll get away from the people who just freely give me drugs. A lot of drugs all the time. And that's my solution. So I did. I left the country. But I still had that addiction. And then when you go out of the country, it's not any better, because the drugs are everywhere. You just get involved with more strangers that are like more dangerous, right? Well, what happened was, not only was I internally bleeding, but I had gotten parasites because of the combination of the drugs, the way that they make them now, the street drugs. There's something about them that it makes the ecosystem in the body so filled with bacteria, corrosion, that there are these things that They look like hair inside the body, but like ingrown hairs. And if you pick at them, they just burrow into your skin. Those are parasites. And when I was out of the country, I was living by the beach and going to the beach, and then they festered. And when when I was able, when they fester, because you're at the beach, I guess the salt kills them. They started coming out of my body. So I put it under a microscope, and yes, it was a parasite. It looked, I'm not going to give you the details, but I was really, really wrecked. I was so wrecked. So I decided to come back to the States, and I did a fast. And the fast was, for the first week, the fasting, there was some supernatural things that happened, and I saw heavenly divine beings coming down from heaven. And there was like a circle of silhouettes. In this circle of silhouettes, I was standing on the outside, and when I was like, oh my gosh, like, what is this? Like, what are these things doing here? And when I looked over them, I saw a demon. I saw a demon. I was like, oh, whoa. They're protecting me. And then 3 days later, I saw them again, and I was like, oh, they're still there. And that thing is still there too. Well, that's great, but it can't be there forever. So I started praying, and I had been fasting now already 5 or 6 days, right? So I started praying, and then I saw like a heavenly being come down and just kind of like do something, like just a move, just, it wasn't wrestling, it wasn't fighting, it was just like a move. And the thing lost its form. The entity that was attached to me, it had been attached to me, and it was, just corroding me from the inside. And that's what happens. Like, there's demons and like unholy entities. They attach to people, and they start, as above, so below. These are unholy forces. They're negative forces. And when they attach to somebody, it manifests into sickness. It manifests into anything that bad energies will create, like difficulties in your marriage, difficulties with people, fighting, losses of money, or like it's just negative energies, But the worst is when it ruins your health. And I see a lot of people, their health it's not what it could be. So anyways, the first fast that I did was for 70 days. And 70 days, the first week, I had such incredible healing. But I continued because I had done so much damage to my body. And it just felt right. It felt good to cleanse. So I kept cleansing. After the 70 days, I had more supernatural things happen. What happened after the 70 days was this. I was in bed, And this happened for 2 months. It must have happened maybe like 17 times within 2 months span. I would be asleep and then I would wake up to my voice saying, "Daddy, Daddy, Daddy," so loud. And when I'd open my eyes, I would feel this incredible flow of love, like this love that is so divine, fulfilling, nourishing, and it was like ecstasy, this love. And it was coming from a diamond-shaped light that was hovering over my bed. This diamond-shaped light hovering over my bed was just emitting this love to me that I missed my entire life from having lost my dad. And so what was found was this, it was like this, the little girl that had been traumatized when I was 5 years old, that little girl that was hiding inside of me, that was operating with me through everything in my life, was like this powerless child, was trying to do these things as an adult. No wonder I couldn't get it right, because I was operating like a powerless child all those years. And with despair, the little girl that was in despair inside of me, and I didn't know that. I couldn't figure that out. I didn't see it. But through my fasting and the divine beings that came down to help me, they identified that without me knowing, and they sent me healing, the healing that I needed. So that is why after that first fast, I fasted 20 more times in 2 years, because of the miracles that fasting does. I don't feel like I have to be in a relationship. I don't feel that despair. I feel whole. I feel like I have this abundance inside of me that is like flowing, and I don't even have to have anything on the outside to feel that inside of me. I'm not reaching and searching. I'm not buying things to feed me, to feed a void. That void is filled, and that is a miracle that I could not have done if I did not open the highways for the divine to come in by me fasting. So I see it clearly now. I see it clearly what fasting does. And I want others to have the healings that they don't even know that they need. They might be so sick that they know they need healing, but they don't know that fasting would do them wonders. So I want to bring this to you, everybody, because not only does it heal the self, if you pray for other people while you're fasting, you can give them healing too. I even think that if we did like a community fast, we can even make some really strong impacts to politics to save our country. It's miraculous. Anyways, thanks for listening to my story. There will be more to come. I have other things to say. Thanks for listening.